Welcome back to Bright Ideas from Acuity Brands on IndustrialSage. Today we take a look back at the unusual year of 2020. I am joined by Ricky Reece, the president of Acuity Brands Lighting. Ricky, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Catherine.
I'd like to start by taking a look back. Let's go back to March of 2020. What was it like for the Acuity leadership in those first few weeks?
Yeah, you have to first remember that at that time we had just transitioned our CEO,
That's
Vern
true.
Nagel, who had been our CEO for 15 years, had retired, and we welcomed Neil Ash as our new CEO, and he brought in a new chief HR officer. So they were greeted with a global pandemic, not necessarily the way you might want to start a career with a new company, but
Indeed.
the response was fantastic. And in those first few weeks, we were meeting daily. We would meet every day at noon. And the first priority was the health and safety of our associates and their families. So we were getting daily updates on any cases that may be happening, but equally important, what were we able to do to keep our associates and all healthy and safe and following all of the CDC and other health suggestions and so forth. But we also realized we need to effectively run the business. We did have a business, and a business that we felt and subsequently was validated was an essential business. We were able to continue and needed to continue to provide lighting to healthcare facilities, distribution centers, grocery stores, and so forth. So while we needed to be very cautious of how to keep our associates well, but also we needed to run a business. So it was very interesting time, but very focused, and I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish in keeping the business running effectively and keeping our associates well.
So give us a little more insight. What would you say was the first crucial decision that you and the team had to make?
Yeah, the first one was whether to stay open. When it first started hearing the news of the outbreak and how contagious this virus was could we keep our associates well and safe while continuing to operate? And so that was the most crucial decision. And we concluded, which was follow on to that, is that many of our associates could work very effectively remotely. So then we need to decide, can we do that effectively, and how quickly can we take the folks that can effectively work remote and set up the technology, the tools, and all necessary to accomplish that. So literally over a weekend, we decided to take our largest campus, which is in Conyers, Georgia, and have everybody Monday be virtual. And let's see how all of the different Zoom and Teams and other tools would be able to work for us to be effective. And so that was probably the first decision. Will we stay open? And then second, how can we be safer by having as many associates as possible work remote?
Right. So between March, April, May, and November, January, December, lots of time has passed. How would you say the Acuity's response has changed from early to now a little bit later in the pandemic?
I guess I'm proud to say it hasn't changed that dramatically. I think we made some very good decisions, and the team had creative ideas of how we could work effectively remotely where possible, but where we needed to be in the facilities, certainly the production facilities or the distribution centers, how we could put up proper social distancing and tracing and testing and so forth to operate. So generally, we've continued to follow that. Yes, we've seen opportunities to continuously improve, and we've done some of that as far as operating, but not a lot of changes from that standpoint that we have made since March.
Right.
So
pretty consistent.
been pretty effective, and we've continued to just iterate and make incremental improvements.
You mentioned the manufacturing floor changes. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what you're doing there?
Yes, particularly in our facility in Monterey, we're especially proud. They've actually became the gold standard throughout much of Mexico, and the health authorities and so forth are getting ideas and holding them out as a model. Some of the things that they are doing is very tight tracing of employees. They all, of course, are distanced as they come into the facility and get their temperature checked. But they go to the same restrooms every day in a very small group. They eat at the same table in the lunchroom every day. So we're not cross-pollinating potential people that might have an infection. So we try to keep them as separated as we can. We've actually redesigned the cells. We have cellular manufacturing in all of our facilities, and the way those are set up in a horseshoe, you're going to have people within 6 feet if you don't change something. So we've
Right.
had to put some on the outside and some on the inside and space that out so we can get the 6 foot distancing. And where we can't, we put plexiglass in place. And of course, we have them wear the appropriate PPE and all every day. So pretty excited about what we've been able to do while continuing to effectively run the business. And as I said, we've actually helped some of our competitors as they were having trouble staying open, but they supply us certain components. And so we've shared some of our best practices with them, which have enabled some of them to get back up and running quicker than they likely would have otherwise.
Some really creative solutions for an essential industry. Are there any things that you started doing or have changed that you think we're going to keep doing this? We've learned that this is a better path. This is how we're going to do it from now on.
Yeah, I think one thing that we've learned is I think many of us will continue to work remote much of the time, not all the time, as many of us have had to do for a while, but much of the time. We found it to be very effective. We've launched the Acuity Anywhere initiative. So there will be a large portion of the salaried organization anyway that will be able to continue to work wherever they want to work. And we've proven that we can do that effectively. But I think we've also learned some best practices around using technology in our sales and marketing efforts. How can we do more of that virtually? Do we need to put as many people on a plane every week traveling to do training and to do demonstration of products and so forth? We
Right.
look forward to being able to do more of that in person, but I don't think we'll ever go back to where we were before. And we've used artificial intelligence as a way to be able in 360 degrees with people wearing the goggles to be able to see what a product would look like in a space and how to effectively light a space, and doing more of that virtually. And I think we'll continue to do that going forward.
So, with a lot of things going more virtual and people working more remotely, company culture is on the mind of a lot of people in country or companies across the country, across the industries. Are there any new tools or resources that Acuity is using to try and keep the associates connected or celebrating their wins or inspired?
Absolutely. Communication is even more critical now with everybody so diverse and not being able to see each other in the hallways or in the break room and so forth. So we've looked at ways to supplement that virtually and have had happy hours in the afternoons. We've actually had virtual concerts.
Right.
There's a group out of Austin that we've been able to hook up with and get 50 or 100 people together virtually and listen to live music while enjoying a beverage. So we've been doing that, but we also realize the hardship that it's been, particularly on working parents, as they've got children that are studying at home because they're having to study virtually. And what can we do to help them? So we've put in some tools, some resources that they can look to assist. We actually have made personal computers available. We realized
Oh,
some
that's
of our
great.
associates didn't have the ability to have personal computers for their children that needed to work remotely. So we had some opportunity to do that. So there's been quite a few resources that we've made available to help with childcare. That's been a big issue with some of the parents that have a need for childcare when one or the other or both parents need to not not able to work at home. So there's been quite a bit. My hat goes off to the Women's Network, an organization that we had formed 5 or so years ago, and they've kind of taken the lead in thinking through what are some of the challenges that the associates are having in the work life family balance in these virtual times.
So another hot topic this year was diversity and inclusion. Can you tell us a little bit about how Acuity is responding to those conversations?
First, I'm happy to say that we had focused on this as an opportunity numbers of years ago. We've seen this as a great way to get the best people in Acuity and then give them an opportunity to do the best they can once they're part of the Acuity family. So we've had a women's network, which has been focused on the unique needs and opportunity for women in the workplace. And they've been extremely active in providing resources and tools and mentoring to women. And then we have the Magic organization, which is focused on minorities and how can we amplify and give them a greater opportunity in the workplace. And similarly, they have had mentorships. How can we have a person that mentors a minority person? And then we've had workshops where we've been able to bring in very successful minorities from the workplace, from government, from industry to come in and again offer their learnings and mentor our minority population within Acuity. So been very effective way of providing the greatest opportunity to develop and challenge this very talented group of people that are a part of the Acuity family.
And shifting gears back towards the lighting industry, what do you think are some of the long-lasting impacts that we're going to see on the lighting industry?
Yeah, I think all industries are going to see a change in more working remote. I don't know that we'll ever go back to as many people getting on a plane every week and all of the people coming into an office and so forth. I think all industries are going to see that change. When I look specifically at the lighting industry, I don't know that I see as dramatic a change as see in just broader industry of working remote, but a couple of areas. One, I think you're going to see much more focus on what can we do as an industry to help address bacteria and virus. There's clearly lighting that can be helpful in that, certain levels of UV, germicidal UV that can kill viruses and bacteria. We've made significant investments in that area, and I think the lighting industry can take a major position and be very helpful in that, both while people occupy a space, but when they're not in the space. You're hearing about that already in transit authorities as they bring in UV lights and are able to disable viruses and bacteria before they use the airplane again or a subway or a train. But we're also seeing opportunities in schools where after school, let's clean all of the space,
Right.
use UV for that. And there's opportunities, think of a grocery store with that belt going around. We can have UV lights underneath there that can, again, disable viruses and bacteria. So I think we're seeing how can we as a lighting industry contribute to being able to lessen the contagious nature of viruses and bacteria by disabling them using UV. So I see that change happening. And then the virtual side, I think we have learned while most people still want to see the light in the space to see how it's going to do, but with artificial intelligence and so forth, I think we're going to see a way to do more of that virtually that will enable a customer to have easily much more opportunity to test different types of ways of lighting, direct, indirect, and so forth, without having to install and uninstall or bring in lights in a space and do that virtually.
Or even travel to one of our lighting centers and visualize it in one of our spaces, yeah. So what would you think is Acuity's biggest accomplishment over the last year, if you had to narrow it down?
I would say operating effectively while keeping our associates well. That had been a priority coming in. And it's not a small task. We do have thousands of people in the assembly operation every day, making hundreds of thousands of luminaires and controls and on a daily basis. And being able to do that effectively, operate our plants, operate our distribution centers, continue to launch, dozens and dozens, if not 100 new products in this kind of environment. So I think the adaptability is maybe the word I would use. I'm proud of the organization's ability to adapt to this new normal and still be able to operate safely and effectively.
Right, such an obvious thing that needs to be a priority, but not easy to do, and Acuity has done that this year. It's definitely an accomplishment. And then last question on a personal side, what will you take away from this year?
Yeah, first from a business side, personally, it's been a great honor and a privilege to lead this brilliant team as they brought creativity and perseverance to all of the challenges that we've had. Certainly COVID is the headline, but we've had other challenges this year that have come our way. And so I'm just really proud about the opportunity to lead that organization, and I'm personally enjoyed that. From a truly personal standpoint, it's actually been a bit of a silver lining to be at home more, not being on a plane as often, and long days at the office. I've been able to spend more time with the family. And our family was blessed with our 7th grandchild, my wife and I, with our 7th grandchild this year.
Congratulations.
So, I'll be eternally grateful for 2020 for delivering us our 7th grandchild. So not all of the 2020 has to be looked at through the COVID mirror.
Wonderful. Well, Ricky, thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate all of your time and all of your insights into the last year.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what a fantastic business Acuity has and the team that we have working and inspiring me every day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ricky. Join us for our next episode. We will discuss the impact of 2020 on one electrical distributor network and how listening became a pillar to their success.